Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it. Then let's evaluate together. The Texas sky burned red, a fiery sunset bleeding into the horizon as storm clouds churned above the sprawling wind farm outside Houston. Turbines loomed like silent giants, their blades slicing through the humid air with a low, rhythmic hum. Keisha Morgan stood in the middle of it, all her curls plastered to her face by the sudden rain, her dark eyes blazing with defiance. At 38, she was a force, a black woman from New Orleans who'd clawed her way to the top of the renewable energy game. And she wasn't about to let anyone, especially not him, break her. Ryan Baxter, the 28-year-old CEO of Baxter Energy, stood a few feet away. His tailored suit, soaked through blonde hair, matted against his forehead. He looked like a drowned frat boy, but his green eyes burned with something raw, something desperate. I was a damn fool. Keisha, he shouted over the howling wind. You are the best fucking thing that's ever happened to me. Keisha's laugh was sharp, cutting through the storm like a blade. Prove it. Asshole, she shot back, her voice steady despite the rain stinging her skin. Trust me first. He stepped closer, his hands reaching for hers, and for a moment the world narrowed to just them. Two people caught in a tempest, both literal and not. His fingers tightened around hers, and before she could pull away, he kissed her. It was fierce, hungry, like he was trying to pour every apology, every regret, into that one moment. Her lips burned against his, tasting of rain and defiance, but she shoved him back, her chest heaving. Not good enough. Ryan, she said, her voice low, dangerous. Not yet. Lightning cracked overhead, illuminating the turbines behind them, and Keisha turned, walking away into the storm. Ryan stood frozen, watching her go, knowing he'd fucked up in ways he couldn't yet fix. How the hell did they get here? A fake marriage, a multi-billion-dollar energy deal, and a conspiracy threatening to burn it all down 3 months ago. None of this was on Keisha's radar, but life, like a Texas storm, had a way of sneaking up on you. 3 months earlier, Houston was a beast of a city, all concrete and ambition. With a pulse that thrummed like the bass in a Zydeco band, the air smelled of barbecue and ambition. And on a humid September evening, Keisha Morgan stepped out of her rented SUV and into the chaos of downtown. She adjusted the silver turbine-shaped earrings glinting against her dark skin, her hair a cascade of tight curls that bounced as she moved. Her navy blazer and jeans said professional, but the way she carried herself screamed, "Don't mess with me." She was here for one reason, a job at Baxter Energy, the hottest renewable energy startup in Texas. They were on the verge of landing a federal contract to supply next-gen wind turbines to the government, a deal worth billions. Keisha, a lead engineer with a rep for fixing impossible problems, was their golden ticket, or so her mother, Loretta Washington, a no-nonsense federal official, had insisted. There was just one catch, a catch so ridiculous it made Keisha's blood boil. "You've got to marry the CEO," Loretta had said over the phone a week ago, her tone as firm as the oak trees back home in New Orleans. "Ryan Baxter needs a partner to seal this deal, and you are it." It's what his mother wanted before she passed. "Marry him." Keisha had laughed, her voice echoing in her tiny apartment. "Mama, I don't even know this fool. And you think I'm gonna play house for some rich white boy? Hell no. It's not about love." "Keisha," Loretta snapped, "it's about leverage. You are the best engineer I know, and this contract could change the game for clean energy. Do it for the cause, not for him." Keisha had cussed under her breath, but agreed mostly because Loretta was a bulldozer when she wanted to be. Now standing outside Baxter Energy, sleek glass headquarters, She regretted every second of that call. She wasn't here to be anyone's trophy wife, fake or not. She was here to build turbines, save the planet, and maybe eat some decent crawfish while she was at it. Inside the lobby was all polished marble and ego, with a massive model turbine spinning lazily in the center. Keisha's boots clicked against the floor as she headed for the elevator, ignoring the receptionist's curious glance. She was used to it, the stares, the whispers. A black woman in a field full of white guys in suits always got looks. Let him stare. She had work to do. The elevator dinged, and as the doors slid open, she nearly collided with a man stepping out. He was tall, broad-shouldered with skin, the color of rich coffee and a grin that could charm a snake. His hair was cropped close, and his black button-down shirt hugged his frame just right. Damn. Kay, still breaking hearts with that smile, he said. His voice warm, teasing. Keisha's eyes widened. Luke Hayes. What the hell are you doing here? Luke Hayes, her old colleague from New Orleans, wrapped her in a hug that smelled of cedar and confidence. They'd worked together on a solar project years ago, back when they'd flirted with something more, a few dates, a few kisses. But it fizzled out when Luke wanted to chase bigger dreams and Keisha wanted to stay grounded. He was still fine as hell, though, and that cocky grin hadn't changed a bit. I am the new consultant for Baxter, Luke said, stepping back to look her over. Heard you re the star of the show now. About time you showed these Texas boys how it's done. Keisha smirked. And you are still running your mouth like it's an Olympic sport. Before Luke could fire back, another voice cut through the air, sharp and impatient. You must be Keisha Morgan. She turned to see Ryan Baxter striding toward them, all lean muscle and privilege in a tailored gray suit. His blonde hair was swept back, his green eyes assessing her like she was a balance sheet. At 28, he was younger than she'd expected, but the arrogance radiating off him was exactly what she'd feared. He barely glanced at Luke, his focus locked on her. That's me, Keisha said, crossing her arms. And you're the guy who thinks I'm here to play wifey for your little deal. Ryan's jaw tightened, but he forced a smile. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. I don't need a babysitter for this contract. And you don't need to like me. We just need to get through this marriage bullshit and win the deal. Keisha raised an eyebrow, unfazed. And I don't need a cocky-ass kid telling me how to do my job. You want my help? Show some damn respect. Luke let out a low whistle, leaning against the wall. Why all already sound like a married couple? This is gonna be fun as hell. Ryan shot Luke a look that could be melted steel, and you are. Luke Hayes, your new consultant, Luke said, his grin widening. Don't worry, rich boy. I'm here to make sure your turbine's don't blow up, and to keep an eye on Keisha. Ryan's eyes narrowed, but he didn't take the bait. Instead, he turned back to Keisha. My office, now. We need to talk terms. Keisha followed, her stomach twisting. She didn't trust. Ryan didn't like him, and sure as hell didn't want to fake a marriage with him. But the contract was bigger than her pride. It could power entire communities, protect places like New Orleans from the kind of storms that had torn her childhood apart. She'd do it for the cause, not for him. Ryan's office was a shrine to his ego, glass walls, a mahogany desk, and a view of Houston's skyline that screamed money. Keisha sat across from him, her arms crossed, while Luke leaned against the doorframe, refusing to sit. Ryan slid a contract across the desk, his expression all business. It's simple, he said. We get married on paper, show up at a few events, convince the feds we're a stable team. My mother S will tide my inheritance to this deal, and she wanted a partnership with someone credible. Your mom vouched for you. Keisha snorted. So I'm your credibility ticket. That's cute. What's in it for me? A cut of the profits, Ryan said, leaning back, and a chance to lead the turbine project. You're supposed to be the best, right? She is. Luke cut in, his voice firm. Keisha's been outsmarting engineers twice her age since college. You're lucky she's even here. Ryan ignored him. His eyes locked on Keisha. Look, I don't like this any more than you do, but we need each other to pull this off. Keisha leaned forward, her voice low. Let's get one thing straight. Baxter, I'm not here for your money or your name. I'm here to build turbines that actually work. You step out of line, and I am gone, deal or no deal. Ryan smirked, like he was impressed despite himself. Fair enough. Sign the damn thing, and let's get to work. She grabbed the pen, her hand steady, but her mind racing. This was a means to an end, nothing more. She scribbled her name, feeling the weight of it settle in her chest. That night, Keisha met her best friend, Maya Delgado, at a dive bar on the edge of Houston. The place was pure Texas, neon signs, a jukebox blaring Willie Nelson, and the smell of fried pickles in the air. Maya, a 35-year-old Latina journalist with a penchant for tequila and trouble, slid into the booth with a grin. So, let me get this straight, Maya said, sipping her drink. You're marrying some rich white boy for a turbine deal, girl. This marriage bullshit's gonna be a hot-ass mess. Keisha laughed. The first real laugh she'd had all day. Tell me about it. Ryan is a prick. Thinks he is God's gift to energy. And then there's Luke, stirring shit up like always. Maya's eyes lit up. Luke Hayes, fine-ass Luke from New Orleans. Oh, honey, you've got a whole damn soap opera now. Is he still into you? Keisha rolled her eyes, but her cheeks warmed. He's just Luke. We were done with that. Besides, I'm not here for drama. I am here to work. Uh-huh, Maya said, smirking. You say that now, but I'm calling it someone's gonna catch feelings, and it is gonna be messy as fuck. Keisha took a swig of her beer, trying to ignore the knot in her stomach. Maya wasn't. The next morning, Keisha was in the Baxter Energy Lab, surrounded by screens flashing turbine data. Jamal Carter, a 30-year-old black engineer with a quick wit, was at her side, pointing out a glitch in the blade rotation system. This shit's off by a millisecond, he said, chewing gum. Could fry the whole system in a storm. Keisha nodded, already lost in the numbers. Good catch, Jamal. Let's recalibrate before the pretty boy upstairs notices. Pretty boy Jamal grinned. You mean your fake-ass husband, man? He's gonna love hearing that. Before Keisha could respond, her phone buzzed with an email from Ryan's assistant. She opened it, expecting a meeting invite, but her heart stopped. It was a forwarded message from Ryan to his assistant. Dated yesterday, Keisha Morgan S., too old and stiff for this gig. She better not screw up the deal. Her blood boiled. That arrogant son of a bitch. She'd known he was a prick, but seeing it in black and white hit different. She slammed her phone down, making Jamal jump. Yo, you good? He asked. Nope, Keisha said, her voice tight. But I'm about to be. Ryan Baxter's gonna learn who he's dealing with. She stormed out of the lab, her mind racing. She wasn't just signing up for a fake marriage, she was signing up for a fight. And if Ryan thought he could underestimate her, he was in for a rude-ass awakening. To be continued. Yo, if this spicy drama's got you hooked, smash that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Who has Team Ryan, Team Luke, or Team Keisha as badass vibes? Tell me what you think. Is gonna go down next? Will Keisha put Ryan in his place? Or is Luke gonna steal the show? Let's keep these turbines spinning. The Houston skyline glittered like a damn jewel box, all glass and neon against the humid night. Inside the grand ballroom of the Marriott, Marca, the energy industry, elite, sipped overpriced cocktails and swapped bullshit about the future of power. Keisha Morgan stood near the bar, her red dress hugging her curves like it was made for trouble. The dress was Maya's idea. Wear something to make that rich boy choke on his bourbon, her friend had said, and Keisha had to admit it was working. Heads turned as she moved through the crowd, her silver turbine earrings catching the light, her curls bouncing with every step. But she wasn't here to play pretty. She was here to sell a dream Baxter Energy-esque next-gen wind turbines, the kind that could power a city and survive a Texas hurricane. Tonight was the Energy Summit Gala, a schmooze fest where CEOs, investors, and federal suits decided who to get the keys to the renewable energy. Kingdom Baxter Energy was on the cusp of landing a federal contract worth billions, but they needed to look like a united front. That meant Keisha and Ryan Baxter, her fake-ass husband-to-be, had to play nice for the cameras. Problem was, after reading his email calling her too old and stiff, Keisha wasn't in the mood to play anything but hardball. She scanned the room, spotting Ryan across the ballroom. He was working the crowd like a pro, all charm and sharp smiles in a black tux that probably cost more than her car. His blonde hair was swept back, his green eyes glinting as he laughed with a group of gray-haired investors. The guy was a walking billboard for privilege, and it pissed her off how good he looked doing it. She took a sip of her whiskey, letting the burn steady her nerves. Focus. Keisha, you are here for the turbines, not his smug ass. Looking like a damn queen tonight. Kay, a familiar voice said behind her. Keisha turned to see Luke Hayes, his grin as dangerous as ever. He was decked out in a tailored black suit, his broad shoulders filling it out just right. His close-cropped hair and easy swagger made him stand out in a room full of stiff suits, and the way he looked at her like she was the only person worth noticing sent a flicker of heat through her. Luke was trouble, always had been, but he was her kind of trouble. Save the sweet talk. Hayes, Keisha said, smirking. You are supposed to be charming the investors, not me. Luke leaned against the bar, his voice low. Why can I do both? Besides, I'm just warming up before I steal you for a dance. Keisha rolled her eyes, but her smile betrayed her. You know I don't dance at these things. Too many eyes. Bullshit, Luke said, his grin widening. You danced with me at that jazz fest in New Orleans. Remember, had half the crowd jealous? She laughed. The memory flashing back Luke, spinning her under the stars. The air thick with trumpet notes and bourbon. That was before things got complicated, before they realized they wanted different lives. Now, here he was, stirring up old feelings she didn't have time for, before she could respond. Ryan appeared at her side, his expression a mix of irritation and something else, jealousy. Maybe Keisha. We need to mingle, he said. His voice clipped. The feds are here, and they want to meet the happy couple. Keisha raised an eyebrow, not missing the way his eyes flicked to Luke. Happy couple? Huh? You sure you can keep up? Baxter, Ryan's jaw tightened, but he forced a smile. Let's find out. Luke chuckled, sipping his drink. Go easy on him. Kay, rich boy's already sweating. Ryan shot Luke a look that could have started a fire, but Keisha just grabbed Ryan's arm, her grip firm. Come on, husband, let's go fake some love. The gala was a whirlwind of handshakes, small talk, and bullshit smiles. Keisha played her part, charming a federal official with stats about turbine efficiency while Ryan worked the room like a politician. She had to admit he was good smooth, confident with just enough Texas drawl to make the investors feel at home. But every time he touched her arm or called her darling for the crowd, she wanted to shove him into the nearest ice sculpture. The band struck up a Zydeco tune, all accordion and washboard, and the dance floor filled with couples swaying to the infectious rhythm. Keisha stood near the edge, watching the chaos, when Ryan appeared with a mischievous glint in his eye. Dance with me, he said, holding out his hand. Keisha snorted. You serious? I'm not here to be your arm candy. It's for the optics, Ryan said, lowering his voice. The feds are watching. Come on, don't make me beg. She sighed, knowing he was right. Fine, but if you step on my toes, I'm out. Ryan led her to the floor, his hand warm against her back. The music was fast, the beat pulsing through the room, and Keisha tried to focus on the steps instead of the heat of his touch. But Ryan, bless his heart, was a disaster. He tried to spin her, but his timing was off, and she stumbled, nearly crashing into another couple. The crowd laughed, and Keisha couldn't help it. She burst out laughing too. Damn. Baxter, you danced like a drunk-ass cowboy, she said, clutching his arm to steady herself. Ryan's face reddened, but he grinned, clearly enjoying her laugh. Cut me some slack. Morgan, I am a CEO, not a damn dance instructor. Clearly she shot back, but she let him pull her closer, their bodies swaying to the beat. For a moment it felt easy, natural, like they weren't faking it. His hand rested on her waist, and she caught a flicker of something in his eyes. Admiration, maybe, or something deeper. It threw her off, and she didn't like how much she noticed it. The song ended, and the crowd clapped. Keisha stepped back, her heart racing for reasons she didn't want to unpack. Before she could say anything, Luke appeared, his grin wicked. My turn, he said, offering his hand. Let's show him how it's done, 'kay? Ryan's smile vanished, but Keisha didn't give him a chance to protest. She took Luke's hand, letting him lead her back to the floor. The band kicked into another Zydeco tune, and Luke was all confidence, spinning her with ease, his movements smooth as silk. The crowd whooped, and Keisha laughed, her body moving in sync with his like they'd never stopped dancing together. Luke leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. You still got those moves, 'kay? Damn. You were killing it. She smirked, but her eyes flicked to Ryan, who stood at the edge of the floor, his jaw tight. He looked like he wanted to punch something or someone. Good, she thought. Let him stew. But deep down, she felt a pang of guilt. This was supposed to be a job, not a soap opera. Later, Keisha slipped away to the balcony for some air, the humid Houston night wrapping around her like a blanket. The city sparkled below, all ambition and grit, and she leaned against the railing, trying to shake off the chaos of the night. The dance with Ryan had rattled her more than she wanted to admit, and Luca's presence wasn't helping. She wasn't here for feelings. Damn it, she was here for the turbines. Maya found her a tequila shot in hand, and a grin that screamed trouble. Girl, you had those boys tripping over themselves out there, she said, handing Keisha the shot. Ryan looked like he was about to start a fight. And Luke, that man has still got it bad for you. Keisha downed the shot, the burn grounding her. It's all fake. Maya, Ryan's just playing the part, and Luke's being Luke. Bullshit, Maya said, leaning closer. I saw the way Ryan looked at you when you were dancing with Luke. That boy's jealous as hell. And Luke, he's not just flirting for fun. You've got a damn love triangle brewing, and I am here for it, Keisha groaned. I don't have time for this soap opera crap. We've got a contract to win, and I'm not letting some rich boy or my ex mess it up. Maya's grin faded, her voice turning serious. Speaking of messes, I got a tip today. Victor Crane's up to something. Word is, he's hired a hacker to screw with Baxter's turbine designs. Wants to tank the deal before it even starts. Keisha's stomach dropped. Victor Crane, the oil tycoon with a vendetta against renewables, was a snake in a Stetson. She'd met him once at a conference in Dallas. And he'd called her sweetheart, like she was his secretary instead of an engineer. If he was coming for Baxter Energy, this was bigger than a fake marriage. You sure? Keisha asked, her mind racing. Not yet, Maya said, but I am digging. If Crane is playing dirty, we need to be ready. Keisha nodded, her resolve hardening. Keep me posted. If that bastard thinks he can screw with my turbines, he's got another thing coming. Back inside, Keisha found Luke at the bar, nursing a bourbon. He looked up as she approached, his grin softening. You good? Kay looked like you needed a breather out there. I am fine, she said, sliding onto the stool next to him. Just needed a break from the circus. Maya says Crane's up to something. You hear anything? Luke's expression darkened. Yeah, I got a hunch. There's a kid I worked with in New Orleans. Ethan, a hacker. Young, but sharp. Word is, he's been doing jobs for some oil bigwig. Sounds like Crane-esque style. Keisha frowned. You think Ethan's the one messing with our designs? Maybe, Luke said, swirling his drink. Kid-esque got skills, but he's scared. If Crane-esque got him on a leash, he's not doing it willingly. I'll reach out, see what I can find. Thanks, Luke, Keisha said, her voice softer. I'm glad you're here. He looked at her, his eyes searching. Always. Kay, you know that. The air between them shifted, heavy with unspoken history. Keisha felt a pull, a flicker of what might have been, but she pushed it down. She wasn't that girl anymore, and Luke wasn't her future. As the gala wound down, Keisha and Ryan ended up in the hotel-less elevator, heading to the parking garage. The silence was thick, the hum of the elevator the only sound. Ryan leaned against the wall, his tie loosened, his eyes fixed on her. You were good tonight, he said, his voice low. The feds ate it up. You are not what I expected. Keisha crossed her arms, her guard up. What? You thought I'd be some stiff old engineer who couldn't handle a room. Thanks for the vote of confidence, asshole. Ryan winced, running a hand through his hair. That's not what I meant. Look, I fucked up with that email. I didn't know you then. You were kinda badass. Okay. She stared at him, caught off guard by the admission. His eyes were earnest, no trace of the smug CEO she'd met yesterday. For a second, she saw something real, a guy trying to navigate a world he didn't fully understand. It threw her, and she hated how much it made her want to believe him. Took you long enough. Dumbass, she said, her voice softer than she meant. The elevator dinged, but before the doors opened, the lights flickered and the car jolted to a stop. Keisha stumbled and Ryan caught her, his hands steady on her waist. They were close. Too close, his breath warm against her cheek. The scent of his cologne mixing with the faint whiskey on her own breath. You okay, he asked, his voice rough. Yeah, she said. But her heart was pounding, and not just from the jolt. His hands lingered, and she didn't pull away. The air crackled, like the storm waiting outside, and for a moment she thought he might kiss her. Then the lights snapped back on, and the elevator lurched into motion. Keisha stepped back, her pulse racing. Dawn to get any ideas? Baxter, she said, forcing a smirk. This is still fake, Ryan grinned, but his eyes said something else. For now, the doors opened, and Luke was waiting in the garage, his expression unreadable. Why all need a chaperone in there, he said, his tone light but his eyes sharp. Keisha laughed, brushing past him. Keep up, Hayes. We've got a war to win. But as she walked to her car, the weight of the night settled in her chest. Ryan, S words. Luke, S loyalty. Maya, S warning about Crane. It was all spinning out of control. This wasn't just about turbines anymore. It was personal. And Keisha Morgan was ready to fight like hell. The Houston rain came down in sheets, hammering the roof of Baxter Energy S lab like it was trying to drown the city inside. The air was cold, the glow of computer screens casting shadows across Keisha Morgan's face as she hunched over a keyboard. Her curls were pulled back in a messy bun, her hoodie sleeves rolled up, and her eyes burned with focus. The turbine control system was acting up some glitch in the blade pitch algorithm that could fry the whole damn thing in a storm. She'd been at it for hours, fueled by coffee and spite. Ever since that gala 2 nights ago when Ryan Baxter had almost kissed her in the elevator. Almost. The memory pissed her off. Not because it happened, but because she'd wanted it to. For a split second she'd seen something real in his eyes. Something that wasn't just the cocky CEO playing a part. And then Luke had shown up, throwing her right back into the mess of her own head. 2 men. 1 fake marriage, and a $1 billion deal hanging in the balance. She didn't have time for this soap opera bullshit. You okay? You still alive over there? Jamal Carter, His voice cut through the hum of the lab. He leaned back in his chair, tossing a stress ball in the air. At 30, Jamal was the kind of engineer who could spot a bug in 1,000 lines of code, but still acted like he was chilling at a barbecue. You have been staring at that screen like it owes you money. Keisha didn't look up. This glitch is a pain in the ass. Jamal, if we don't fix it, the turbines could lock up in high winds. No way I'm letting that happen on my watch. Jamal grinned, popping his gum. That's why you are the boss. But you gotta chill, girl. You look like you're about to cuss out the whole damn server. She snorted, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Might just do that if this code doesn't behave. The lab door swung open, and Luke Hayes strolled in a takeout bag from a Cajun joint in his hand. The smell of gumbo filled the air, cutting through the sterile lab vibe. He was in jeans and a black Henley. His broad shoulders relaxed, but his eyes sharp. Why, all working hard or hardly working, he said, setting the bag on a table. Keisha glanced up, her stomach growling despite herself. Luke, you're a lifesaver. I'm starving. Figured you'd need fuel, he said, pulling out containers of gumbo and cornbread. Can to save the planet on an empty stomach. Jamal grabbed a container, grinning. Man, you're my new favorite. Keep feeding me, and I'll ditch Keisha for you. Watch it. Carter, Keisha said, smirking as she dug into the gumbo. The spicy warmth hit her like a hug, reminding her of home in New Orleans. For a moment, the stress of the deal, Ryan, and the gala faded. But only for a moment. Luke leaned against the table, watching her with that look he always had, half teasing, half something deeper. So, Kay, how's married life treating you? Rich boy still acting like a dumbass. Keisha rolled her eyes. Dawn to start. Ryan's manageable. Barely. Luke chuckled. But there was an edge to it. Manageable. Huh. Looked like he was ready to throw hands at the gala when we danced. Guy's got it bad for you, whether he admits it or not. She waved him off, ignoring the heat creeping up her neck. It's just optics. Luke, he's playing the part for the feds. You know that. Uh-huh, Luke said, his voice low. Keep telling yourself that. Before she could fire back, her phone buzzed with an urgent email from Ryan, S. assistant. The subject line made her heart stop. Security, breach, turbine. Design, leak. She opened it, her pulse racing as she read the details. A version of their turbine control software had been leaked online, riddled with errors that could crash the system in a storm. Worse, the leak was traced to an email account linked to her name. What the fuck, Keisha muttered, her voice shaking. She shoved the phone at Jamal and Luke. This is bullshit. I didn't leak anything. Jamal's eyes widened as he scanned the email. No way, Kay. This is some shady-ass setup. Someone is trying to screw you over. Luke's jaw tightened, his easy grin gone. Crane, he said, his voice hard. I told you he's got Ethan on a leash. This smells like his kind of play. Keisha's mind raced. Victor Crane, the oil tycoon with a hard-on for killing renewables, had been gunning for Baxter Energy since day one. If he was behind this, he wasn't just trying to tank the deal, he was trying to ruin her. She stood, pacing the lab, her hands clenched. I need to talk to Ryan. Now. Ryan's office was as smug as ever, all glass and polished wood, with a view of Houston's skyline glowing under the rain. He stood behind his desk, his tie loosened, his face a storm of its own. Keisha didn't bother knocking, she barged in, Luke and Jamal trailing behind her. Explain this shit, she said, tossing her phone onto his desk. The email was still open, the accusation glaring in black and white. Ryan's eyes flicked to the screen, then back to her. His expression was unreadable, but the tension in his shoulders said enough. Just got the same email, he said, his voice low. Our servers were hacked last night. The leaked code's a mess full of bugs we fixed months ago, and it's got your name on it. Keisha's blood boiled. You think I did this? Are you fucking serious? Ryan. I didn't say that, he snapped, but his eyes betrayed him doubt, sharp and cold. But it's your email. Keisha, how the hell did it get out there? Luke stepped forward, his voice like steel. Watch your tone, rich boy. Keisha's been busting her ass for your company. You really think she'd sabotage her own work? Ryan's gaze shifted to Luke, his jaw tightening. Stay out of this. Hayes, this is between me and my partner. Partner Keisha laughed, bitter and sharp. You're just like the rest of them, Ryan, judging me before you know a damn thing. I thought you were better than that email you sent. But I guess I was wrong. Ryan flinched, the mention of his too old and stiff email hitting like a punch. Keisha, I'm not saying you did it, but I need answers. The feds are breathing down my neck. And if this leak tanks the deal, then what? She cut him off, her voice shaking with fury. You will blame the black woman who's been carrying your ass. I am done with this bullshit. She turned to leave, but Ryan grabbed her arm. Wait, he said, his voice softer, almost pleading. If you didn't do this, help me figure out who did. Please. She yanked her arm free, her eyes blazing. You want my help? Start by trusting me, asshole. Until then, I am working alone. She stormed out, Luke and Jamal following. The rain outside matched her mood. Relentless, unforgiving. She'd known Ryan was a prick, but this cut deeper than she wanted to admit. And Luke's quiet presence beside her, his unspoken loyalty, only made it worse. She wasn't here for feelings. Damn it. But feelings were all she had left. Keisha spent the next day in the lab, buried in code, trying to trace the leak. Jamal was at her side, his usual jokes, replaced by quiet focus. The lab was a fortress of screens and wires, the air thick with the hum of servers and the faint smell of burnt coffee. Outside, Houston was gray, the rain refusing to let up. Luke showed up around noon, his expression grim. Talked to Ethan, he said, leaning against a workbench. Kid is scared shitless. Says Crane's got dirt on him, some old hack he did as a teenager. Crane-S using it to make him do the dirty work. Keisha's heart sank. So Ethan leaked the code. Looks like it, Luke said. But he didn't use your email. Kay, that was Crane-S touch framing you to cause maximum damage. Ethan S. ready to flip, but he needs protection. I am working on it. She nodded, her mind racing. Thanks, Luke. I don't know what I'd do without you. He looked at her, his eyes soft but intense. You don't need me, Kay. You never did. But I'm here anyway. The words hung between them, heavy with history. Keisha wanted to say something, to bridge the gap they'd never quite closed. But the lab door opened, and Maya Delgado burst in, her leather jacket dripping wet. Y'all, we've got a problem, Maya said, her voice urgent. I dug into Crane's financials. He's got a beef with Ryan, some deal Baxter Energy stole from him 2 years ago. This leak, it is personal. Crane-S not just after the contract. He wants to burn Ryan-S whole damn empire down. Keisha's stomach twisted. And he's using me to do it. Maya nodded, her eyes fierce. You are the perfect scapegoat, girl. But we are not letting that bastard win. I'm working on a source who says Crane's been meeting with a Fed. If we can prove he's bribing someone, we've got him. Keisha clenched her fists, her resolve hardening. Keep digging. Maya, I'm not going down without a fight. That night, Keisha sat alone in her apartment, a glass of bourbon in her hand. The rain had finally stopped leaving, Houston quiet almost, too quiet. She stared at her phone. The email from Ryan's assistant, still open. Your name S on the leak. The words felt like a knife. not because of the accusation, but because of who believed it. Ryan's doubt hurt more than she wanted to admit. She'd seen something in him at the gala, something worth trusting. And now she felt like a fool. Her phone buzzed with the text from Luke. "You okay? Kay, need me to come over?" She typed back, "I am good, just need to think." But she wasn't good. She was pissed, hurt and stuck in a fake marriage with a man who didn't trust her. Luke's loyalty was a lifeline, but it came with its own complications. She didn't want to hurt him, didn't want to drag him into her mess, but he was already there, and so was Ryan, and so was Crane. Keisha took a sip of bourbon, the burn grounding her. She wasn't just fighting for the turbines anymore. She was fighting for her name, her pride, and every black woman who'd ever been underestimated. Crane wanted a war, she'd give him one, and Ryan, he'd better pick a side, because Keisha Morgan didn't play second fiddle to anyone. The Houston lab was a war zone of code and caffeine, the air thick with the hum of servers and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights. Keisha Morgan sat at her workstation, her eyes bloodshot, her curls stuffed under a baseball cap. She'd been at it for 3 days straight, ever since Ryan Baxter's doubt had gutted her like a fish. The leaked turbine code framed to look like her. Doing had thrown Baxter Energy into chaos, and Victor Crane, that slimy oil tycoon, was laughing his ass off somewhere. But Keisha wasn't going down without a fight. She was neck-deep in the turbine's control system, hunting for the glitch that could prove her innocence and save the damn deal. The lab was quiet, save for the clack of her keyboard and the occasional curse from Jamal Carter, who was sprawled across a nearby desk scrolling through server logs. Outside Houston was restless, the sky bruised with storm clouds that promised another round of rain. Keisha's coffee was cold, her gumbo from yesterday untouched. But she didn't care. This wasn't just about clearing her name anymore. It was about showing Ryan, Crane, and every smug bastard in this industry that she was the best damn engineer they'd ever meet. "Yo, Kay, you find anything yet?" Jamal asked, tossing his stress ball in the air. "I'm starting to think this glitch is ghosting us." Keisha didn't look up, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "It is in the blade pitch controller. I can feel it. The leaked code had a timing error too precise to be random. If I can prove it's not my work, we are golden." Jamal whistled. "You're a damn machine, girl. But you gotta sleep. You look like you're re-auditioning for a zombie flick." "Sleep is for quitters," Keisha said, her voice tight but teasing. "Crane's not sleeping, so neither am I." The lab door swung open and Luke Hayes walked in, his black Henley clinging to his frame from the drizzle outside. He carried a paper bag from a taco truck, the smell of barbacoa cutting through the lab's sterile air. His eyes locked on Keisha, softening with concern. "Kay, you're gonna burn out," he said, setting the bag down. "Eat something before you pass out on that keyboard." Keisha glanced up, her stomach growling despite herself. "You were worse than my mama." "Luke, I am fine." "Bullshit," he said, pulling out a foil container of tacos. "You are running on fumes, and we need you sharp. Crane's playing dirty, and Ryan is not helping with his dumbass accusations." Keisha's jaw tightened at the mention of Ryan. She hadn't spoken to him since their blowout in his office when he looked at her like she might be betrayed him. The memory stung not just because of his doubt, but because she'd started to believe he saw her, really saw her. "Ryan can kiss my ass," she muttered, grabbing a taco. "I am doing this for the turbines, not him." Luke leaned against the workbench, his voice low. "You sure about that?" Kay looked like you two were getting cozy at the gala. She shot him a look, her taco halfway to her mouth. "Dawn to start. Hayes. It's fake. Remember, just a contract." He held her gaze, his expression unreadable. "Yeah, well, contracts done to make you look at someone like that. Keisha opened her mouth to argue, but a ping from her computer stopped her. She spun back to the screen, her heart racing as she scanned the code. "Holy shit," she whispered. "I found it." Jamal bolted upright, nearly dropping his stress ball. "Found what Don T leave me hanging." "The glitch," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "The blade pitch controller has got a delay, 0.02 seconds. Just enough to lock the turbines in a high windstorm. It's not in our original code. Someone planted it, and I can prove it wasn't me." Luke's eyes lit up. "Damn, Kay, you are a genius. Can you trace it back to Crane?" "Not yet," she said, her fingers already moving again. "But this clears my name. The leaked code matches this glitch. And I've got timestamps showing I was working on a different module when it was uploaded. I'm sending this to the team now." Jamal grinned, tossing his stress ball high. "That's my girl Crane's about to eat shit." Keisha allowed herself a small smile. But the weight of the past few days lingered. Clearing her name was one thing. Fixing things with Ryan was another. She wasn't sure she wanted to. An hour later, the lab door opened again and Ryan Baxter walked in. He was in a rumpled button down his blonde hair, a mess, his green eyes shadowed with exhaustion. Keisha's stomach twisted at the sight of him, a mix of anger and something she didn't want to name. Luke straightened, his expression hardening, while Jamal just raised an eyebrow and kept tossing his stress ball. "Keisha," Ryan said, his voice rough. "I need to talk to you." She didn't look up from her screen. "Unless it's about the turbines. I'm busy." "It's about the leak," he said, stepping closer. "I saw your report. You found the glitch." "Yeah. No thanks to you," she snapped, finally meeting his eyes. "You were quick to throw me under the bus." "Baxter. What? You think I am here to sabotage my own work?" Ryan winced, running a hand through his hair. "I fucked up. Keisha. I should have trusted you. I was under pressure, the feds, the board, Crane's bullshit, but that's no excuse. I'm sorry." Keisha stared at him, her heart pounding. His apology sounded real, but she'd been burned before. Trust wasn't something you just handed out like candy. Words are cheap. "Ryan," she said, her voice cold. "You want my trust? Show me." He nodded, his jaw tight. "I will. Starting now. Your report's going to the feds, and I'm backing you 100%. We're gonna nail Crane for this." Luke snorted, crossing his arms. "Little late for that, rich boy. Keisha's been carrying your ass while you played detective." Ryan's eyes flashed, but he kept his focus on Keisha. "I know I screwed up. Let me make it right." Keisha held his gaze, searching for the lie, but all she saw was guilt and determination. It threw her, and she hated how much it made her want to believe him. "Fine," she said, her voice steady. "But don't expect me to hold your hand. We've got a deal to save." That night, a storm rolled into Houston, the kind that rattled windows and turned streets into rivers. Keisha was still in the lab finalizing her report. When the power flickered, the screens went dark, and a crack of thunder shook the building. She cursed, grabbing her phone to use as a flashlight. "Great," she muttered. "Just what I fucking need." The door opened and Ryan stepped in, soaked from the rain. He carried a thermos of coffee, his shirt clinging to his chest in a way that was annoyingly distracting. "Figured you'd still be here," he said, setting the thermos on her desk. "Thought you might need this." Keisha raised an eyebrow, her guard up. "What's this? Your big redemption arc coffee doesn't fix trust." "Baxter." "I know," he said, his voice low, "but it's a start." Another crack of thunder hit, and the lights flickered again, plunging the lab into darkness. Keisha's phone light cast shadows on Ryan's face, highlighting the tension in his jaw. They were alone, the storm raging outside, and the air between them crackled with something dangerous. "You didn't have to come," she said, her voice softer now. I can handle this. I know you can, he said, stepping closer. But I wanted to. Keisha, I was an asshole. I saw that email with your name, and I panicked. I didn't want to believe it, but I let the pressure get to me. I'm sorry. She stared at him, her heart pounding. The rain hammered the windows, drowning out the world. And for a moment, it was just them. You hurt me, Ryan, she said, her voice breaking. I thought you saw me, the real me, not just some engineer you needed for a deal. I do see you, he said, his voice rough. You were brilliant. Keisha, you were fierce. You were stubborn as hell. And you are the only one who can pull this off. I see you. And I fucked up by doubting it. The words hit her like a punch, unraveling something she'd been holding tight. She stepped closer, her anger and hurt colliding with something else need, raw and undeniable. You don't get to say that and expect everything to be okay, she said, her voice trembling. I know, he said, his eyes locked on hers. But I'm not giving up. Thunder roared and the lights flickered back on, but neither of them moved. Ryan's hand brushed her arm, and before she could think, she grabbed his shirt, pulling him into a kiss. It was fierce, desperate, like the storm outside had poured into them. His hands gripped her waist, pulling her close, and her lips burned against his, tasting of coffee and rain. The world fell away, and for a moment, it was just them two people fighting for something neither could name. But Keisha pulled back, her chest heaving, her mind screaming at her to stop. This doesn't fix shit. Ryan, she said, her voice shaky. You still have to prove it. He nodded, his eyes dark with something she couldn't read. I will. The lab door opened, and Luke stepped in, his expression unreadable as he saw them. Storm S getting worse, he said, his voice flat. You good? Keisha nodded, her heart still racing. Yeah, I am good. But as Luke turned to leave, his shoulders tense, she knew she'd just complicated everything. Ryan's kiss was a fire she hadn't expected, and Luke's quiet loyalty was a weight she couldn't ignore. This wasn't just about turbines anymore, it was about trust. And she wasn't sure who deserved hers. The next morning, Keisha met Maya Delgado at a coffee shop near the lab, the air thick with the smell of espresso and fresh beignets. Maya was in her usual leather jacket, her eyes sharp as she slid a tablet across the table. Got something for you, Maya said, her voice low. Ethan came through. Luke convinced him to send us the payment records. Crane wired him 50 grand to plant that glitch. We've got the bastard. Keisha's eyes widened as she scanned the tablet. Holy shit. Maya, this is it. We can tie Crane to the leak. There's more, Maya said, leaning closer. My source says Crane has been meeting with a Fed, trying to bribe them to kill the contract. I'm working on a recording, but it's risky. If we play this wrong, Crane could flip it on us. Keisha nodded, her resolve hardening. Then we don't play it wrong. We take this to Ryan, and we bury Crane. Maya grinned, sipping her coffee. That's my girl. But, speaking of Ryan, you and him looked cozy in that elevator at the gala, and Luke's been moping like a kicked puppy. What's the deal? Keisha groaned, rubbing her temples. There's no deal. Ryan's an asshole who's trying to make nice, and Luke's Luke. I don't have time for this love triangle bullshit. Uh-huh, Maya said, smirking. Keep telling yourself that, but you're gonna have to pick a side eventually, girl. And I'm betting it's gonna be messy as fuck. Keisha took a bite of her beignet, the powdered sugar dusting her fingers. Maya wasn't wrong. Ryan's kiss had shaken her, and Luke's quiet support was a reminder of what might be been. But right now, she had a war to win. Crane was coming for her, and she wasn't about to let him or anyone else take her down. The Houston air was thick with the promise of another storm. the kind that made the city feel like it was holding its breath. Keisha Morgan stood in the Baxter Energy boardroom. Her arms crossed her dark eyes, burning with a mix of fury and focus. The room was a battlefield, sleek mahogany table, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a dozen suits staring her down like she was the enemy. Victor Crane's latest move had hit like a goddamn missile. A rumor spread through industry channels that Keisha was only lead engineer because her mother, Loretta Washington, had pulled strings with the feds. It was a lie, pure and simple, but lies had a way of sticking when they came from a snake like Crane. Keisha had spent the last week proving her worth, nailing the glitch in the turbine's blade pitch controller and clearing her name from the code leak. But Crane wasn't done. He'd turned her victory into a weapon, painting her as a diversity hire, a token, a fraud. The investors were spooked. The board was whispering, and the federal contract, the billion-dollar deal she'd poured her soul into, was teetering on the edge. And Ryan Baxter, the man she'd kissed in a storm, the man she'd started to trust, was standing at the head of the table, trying to salvage the mess. "We've got the evidence." Ryan said, his voice steady but tight. He was in a navy suit, his blonde hair swept back, but the shadows under his green eyes betrayed sleepless nights. "Keisha's report on the glitch is airtight, and we've got payment records tying Crane to the hacker. This rumor is just his desperate attempt to distract from his own bullshit." An older board member, a white guy with a mustache like a bad Western villain, leaned forward. "Maybe so, Mr. Baxter, but the optics are terrible. The feds are asking questions. If Miss Morgan's appointment looks like nepotism, we are screwed." Keisha's blood boiled, but she kept her voice calm, deadly. "Let's get one thing straight," she said, stepping forward. "I earned this job. My resume has got 10 years of project solar grids in New Orleans, wind farms in Oklahoma that say I am the best damn engineer you'll ever meet. Crane's rumor is a lie, and if you buy into it, you're letting him play you like a fiddle." The room went quiet, the suits shifting uncomfortably. Ryan's eyes flicked to her, a mix of admiration and worry. "Keisha's right," he said. "She's the backbone of this project. We stand by her, or we lose everything." But the damage was done. The board adjourned with promises to review the situation, which was corporate. "Speak for we are panicking." Keisha stormed out, her heart pounding, her hands clenched. She'd fought too hard, bled too much, to let Crane's lies take her down. But the weight of it, the doubt, the whispers was crushing. Ryan caught up with her in the hallway, his voice low. "Keisha, wait. We'll fix this. I'm not letting Crane win." She spun on him, her eyes blazing. "You didn't even ask me. Ryan, you stood up there defending me like I'm some damsel in distress. But you didn't ask what I wanted. I'm not your fucking trophy to parade around." He flinched, running a hand through his hair. "I was trying to protect you." "I don't need protecting," she snapped. "I need a partner who trusts me to fight my own battles. You still don't get it, do you?" Ryan's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. "You're right," he said, his voice rough. "I keep screwing this up. Tell me what you need." "Keisha, I'm listening." She stared at him, her anger warring with the memory of his kiss, the way he'd looked at her in the storm. "Need you to back me up, not speak for me," she said. "We representing to the feds in D.C. tomorrow. I'm leading it, and you are gonna let me." He nodded, his eyes steady. "Done. It's your show." She turned away, her heart still racing. Ryan was trying, but trust was a fragile thing, and Crane's lies had cracked it. She wasn't sure if she could fix it or if she wanted to. Luke Hayes was waiting for her in the lab, his broad frame leaning against a workbench, his black Henley stretched tight across his chest. The lab was quieter now, the screens dark, the storm outside rumbling like a warning. Luke's eyes softened as she walked in, but there was a tension in his jaw that hadn't been there before. "You okay, Kay?" he asked, his voice low. Heard about the board meeting. Sounds like a shit show. Keisha sighed, dropping into a chair. That's one way to put it. Crane, as rumor has got everyone spooked. The board is acting like I'm some intern who got lucky. Luke's expression darkened. They idiots. You are the best engineer I know, and they lucky to have you. Crane's just scared because you're about to bury him. She managed a small smile. Thanks, Luke. I don't know what I'd do without you. He stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. You don't need me, Kay. You never did. But I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. The words hit her hard, stirring up the history they'd never quite buried. Luke had always been her rock, the one who got her. No questions asked. But that kiss with Ryan had changed things. And the way Luke looked at her now, like he was holding back a flood, made her chest ache. She didn't want to hurt him, but she didn't know what she wanted anymore. Luke! She started, but he shook his head. Dante, he said, his voice soft but firm. Just focus on the feds. Kick Crane's ass. I've got your back. She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. Always. The next day, Keisha and Ryan flew to Washington, D.C. for the federal presentation, the final hurdle to secure the turbine contract. The flight was tense, the two of them sitting in silence, the hum of the plane doing nothing to ease the weight between them. Keisha stared out the window, her mind on the presentation, but her heart kept drifting to Ryan's apology, Luke's loyalty, and the lies that threatened to unravel everything. They checked into a hotel near the Capitol, a sleek high-rise with marble floors and overpriced minibars. Keisha spent the evening in her room rehearsing her slides, but her nerves were shot. Crane's rumor had spread like wildfire, and whispers followed her everywhere on social media, in industry forums, even in the hotel lobby. She was fighting not just for the contract, but for her reputation, her pride, everything she'd built. Around midnight, Ryan knocked on her door, a stack of papers in his hand. Thought you might want to go over the slides one more time, he said, his voice cautious. Keisha let him in, her guard still up. They spread the papers across the desk, diving into the technical details. Blade efficiency, storm, resilience, cost projections. It was the first time in days they'd worked together without fighting, and it felt good. Like they were a team, not just a contract. You're gonna kill it tomorrow, Ryan said, leaning back in his chair. The feds want to know what hit him. Keisha smirked, but her heart wasn't in it. They'd better. I'm not letting Crane's lies take this from me. Ryan's eyes softened, and he reached for her hand. Keisha, I know I fucked up. I should have asked you before I spoke to the board. I'm trying to be the partner you need, but I keep getting it wrong. She pulled her hand back, her voice steady but raw. It's not just about the board, Ryan. It's about you seeing me, not the engineer, not the deal, but me. I've spent my whole life proving I belong. I can be with someone who doubts that. He stood closing the distance between them. I don't doubt you, he said, his voice rough. I love you, Keisha. Not the engineer. Not the deal you. The woman who calls me out, who fights like hell, who makes me want to be better. I love you, and I'm not giving up. The words hit her like a tidal wave, unraveling every defense she'd built. She stared at him, her heart pounding, and before she could stop herself, she kissed him. It was fierce, desperate, a collision of need and trust and fear. His hands found her waist, pulling her close, and the world fell away. In the dim hotel light, their bodies spoke what words couldn't trust, need, and a fire neither could deny. They moved to the bed, clothes falling away, and for a moment, it was just them. No lies, no deals, no storms. But as they lay there afterward, tangled in sheets, Keisha's mind raced. This wasn't just about love. It was about tomorrow, about Crane, about proving herself. She wasn't sure if Ryan's love was enough, or if she could let herself believe in it. The next morning, Keisha got a text from Maya. Got the recording, Crane S. bribing a Fed, sending it now. She opened the file, her heart racing as he heard Crane S. voice, smooth and smug, offering a federal official a consulting fee to kill the contract. It was the smoking gun they needed, but using it was risky. If they played it wrong, Crane could spin it as entrapment. She showed the recording to Ryan over breakfast, her voice steady. We use this at the presentation. Call Crane out. Show the feds he is the one playing dirty. Ryan nodded, his eyes fierce. Agreed. But we need to be careful. Crane S. got lawyers who eat scandals for breakfast. Then we don't give them a chance to wiggle out, Keisha said. I'm leading this. Ryan, you back me up. But it's my fight. He reached for her hand, his grip warm. It's our fight. I am with you, Keisha. She nodded, her resolve hardening. But as they left for the presentation, a text from Luke popped up. Kick their asses. KIM rooting for you. Her heart ached at the words, at the quiet sacrifice in them. Luke had stepped back, letting her choose, and it hurt more than she expected. At the federal building, Keisha faced a room full of suits, her slides projected on a massive screen. The air was heavy with tension, Crane's rumor hanging like a cloud. She could feel the doubt in their eyes, but she stood tall, her voice steady as she walked them through the Turbine-S design, her fix for the glitch, and the evidence against Crane. Victor Crane wants you to believe I'm a fraud, she said, her eyes locking on the feds. But he's the one who paid, a hacker to sabotage our work. He's the one bribing officials to kill this deal. You think you can bury me with lies? I'm built for fucking storms, and I'm not going anywhere. The room went silent, her words ringing like a challenge. Ryan stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. We have proof, payment records, emails, and a recording of Crane's bribe. Baxter Energy stands by Keisha Morgan, and we're ready to deliver the best turbines this country's ever seen. The feds exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Keisha's heart pounded, but she held her ground. This was her moment, her fight. Crane had tried to break her, but she was stronger than his lies, stronger than the doubt. And for the first time, she felt Ryan standing with her, not in front, not behind, but beside her. But as they left the room, Keisha knew the war wasn't over. Crane wouldn't go down quietly, and the Fed's decision was still up in the air. She glanced at Ryan, his hand brushing hers, and felt a spark of hope. But Luke's text lingered in her mind, a reminder of the cost of this fight. She was ready for the storm, but she wasn't sure what or who she'd lose when it was over. The federal conference room in Washington, D.C. was a pressure cooker, all polished wood and stern faces under harsh fluorescent lights. Keisha Morgan stood at the front, her heart pounding but her voice steady as steel. She'd just laid it all bare. The turbine, fixed design, the glitch. She'd caught the payment records tying Victor Crane to the hacker and the damning recording of his bribe to a federal official. The room was silent. The Fed's expressions unreadable, their pens hovering over notepads like they were waiting for a reason to bury her. Crane. His rumor that she was just her mother. His puppet still hung in the air, but Keisha wasn't a backing down. She was a black woman from New Orleans who'd fought for every inch of her place in this world, and she'd be damned if she let a snake like Crane take it from her. Ryan Baxter stood beside her, his navy suit crisp, but his green eyes fierce with pride. He'd kept his promise, letting her lead, backing her up, without stealing the spotlight. For the first time, they felt like a team, a real one, not just a contract, but the stakes were higher than ever. If the feds didn't buy their case, Baxter Energy was done, and Keisha's reputation would be ash. One of the feds, a gray-haired woman with a no-nonsense stare, leaned forward. Ms. Morgan, you're asking us to believe Victor Crane orchestrated this entire scheme, hacking, leaks, Bribery based on a recording and some bank transfers. That's a serious accusation. Keisha met her gaze, unflinching. It's not an accusation. It is a fact. Crane S. been gunning for this contract because he knows renewables are the future, and his oil empire's on its last legs. He framed me to tank Baxter Energy. But I'm not the one you should be questioning. Play the recording again. Listen to his voice. Then tell me who's lying. The room tensed, but the woman nodded. The recording played. Crane's smug drawl filling the silence. $1 million in a consulting fee, and you make sure Baxter S. deal dies. No one'll trace it. Gasps rippled through the room, and Keisha felt a spark of hope. She glanced at Ryan, his jaw tight but his eyes steady, and knew they had a shot. Another Fed, a younger guy with a skeptical frown, spoke up. Even if Crane S. guilty, the rumor about your appointment raises concerns. How do we know your mother didn't influence this deal? Keisha S. blood boiled, but she kept her cool. You want to know how I got here? 10 years of busting my ass on projects from New Orleans to Oklahoma. I built solar grids that powered hospitals, wind farms that survived hurricanes. My mother didn't hand me this job, my work did. If you doubt that, check my record. Or better yet, ask Crane why he's so scared of me. Ryan stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. Keisha S., the best engineer in the room, hell in the industry. Baxter Energy stands by her, and we've got the data to back it up. Crane's lies are a distraction. The real question is whether you are ready to bet on the future or let an oil tycoon drag us back to the Stone Age. The Feds exchanged glances, and Keisha held her breath. This was it, the moment that would make or break everything. The gray-haired woman scribbled something, then looked up. We'll review the evidence and make a decision by tomorrow. Thank you. Ms. Morgan. Mr. Baxter. Keisha nodded, her heart still racing as they left the room. The hallway was quiet, the weight of the presentation settling like a storm cloud. Ryan touched her arm, his voice low. You were incredible in there. No matter what happens, I'm proud of you. She met his eyes, her guard softening despite herself. Dawn to get soft on me now. Baxter, we are not done yet. He grinned, but there was a flicker of worry in his eyes. I know, but we're in this together, right? She nodded, her chest tight. Yeah, together. Back in Houston, the news hit like a thunderclap. The Feds had awarded Baxter Energy the contract citing Keisha S., exceptional leadership and the overwhelming evidence against Crane. The oil tycoon was under investigation, his company S stock plummeting as headlines screamed about bribery and fraud. Keisha stood in the Baxter Energy lab surrounded by cheering engineers, Jamal tossing his stress ball like it was a damn Super Bowl. Maya Delgado was there too, her leather jacket swapped for a rare dress, a tequila shot in hand as she whooped, "That's my girl Crane's eating shit now." Luke Hayes leaned against a workbench, his grin proud but bittersweet. "You did it, Kay," he said, his voice soft. "Told you you're built for storms." Keisha smiled, but her heart ached at the look in his eyes. Luke had been her rock convincing Ethan the hacker to come clean, backing her up when Ryan faltered. But he'd seen her with Ryan in the lab, felt the shift in her heart, and stepped back without a word. His sacrifice hurt more than she could say, but she knew it was his way of loving her, letting her choose. Ryan found her in the crowd. His tie loosened, his face lit with relief. "We won, Keisha," he said, pulling her into a hug. "You won." She let herself lean into him, just for a moment, the warmth of his arms grounding her. "We won," she corrected, pulling back with a smirk. "Don't to get cocky. Baxter," he laughed, his eyes bright, "wouldn't dream of it." That evening, Keisha and Ryan drove to the wind farm outside Houston, the place where it all began. The turbines loomed against a fiery sunset, their blades spinning with a steady hum. Keisha stepped out of Ryan's truck, her boots crunching on the gravel, the air thick with the scent of rain. A storm was brewing, the sky bruised with clouds, but she didn't care. This was her victory, her moment. Ryan joined her, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his hair catching the last of the light. "Feels different out here now," he said, his voice soft, "like we earned it." "We did," Keisha said, her eyes on the turbines. "But it's not just about the contract. It's about what comes next, powering communities, changing lives. That's why I am here." He turned to her, his expression serious. "I know I fucked up, Keisha. I doubted you. I spoke for you and I'm sorry, but I meant what I said in D.C. I love you, not the engineer, not the deal, but you, the woman who calls me out, who fights like hell, who makes me want to be better. I'm all in. If you'll have me." Her heart pounded, the weight of his words settling deep. She'd spent so long fighting against Crane, against doubt, against her own heart. But Ryan had changed, not just in words, but in actions, standing beside her, trusting her to lead. And Luke, with his quiet sacrifice, had shown her what love could be: selfless, steady. She wasn't choosing between them. She was choosing herself, and the man who saw her for who she was. "I am not easy, Ryan," she said, her voice steady but raw. "I am stubborn, I am loud, and I don't take bullshit. You sure you are ready for that?" He grinned, stepping closer. "I'm ready for all of it. Morgan, you're my badass, and I'm not letting go." Thunder rumbled and the first drops of rain fell cold against her skin. Ryan reached for her, his hands cupping her face, and she didn't pull away. The storm broke, rain soaking them, but his kiss was fire burning away every doubt. Her lips moved against his, fierce and hungry, tasting of rain and victory. The turbines hummed behind them, a steady heartbeat. And for the first time, Keisha believed him, believed in them. "Love you too, dumbass," she whispered against his lips, her voice breaking with a laugh. He laughed, pulling her close, and they stood there, rain-drenched and unbreakable, the storm raging around them. 1 year later, the wind farm was alive with music and laughter. A Zydeco band playing under a massive tent as the sun dipped below the horizon. Keisha and Ryan's wedding. Real this time was a Texas-sized celebration with crawfish boils, bourbon shots, and a dance floor packed with friends and family. Keisha wore a white dress that hugged her curves, her curls loose and wild, her turbine earrings glinting as she laughed. Ryan, in a tailored suit, couldn't take his eyes off her, his grin brighter than the sunset. Maya Delgado, the maid of honor, raised a tequila shot in a toast. "To the baddest couple in Texas," she shouted, her voice carrying over the crowd. "Keisha, you kicked Crane's ass and stole this fool's heart. Ryan, you are lucky as hell." The crowd cheered, and Jamal Carter, tossing his stress ball like always, yelled, "Pretty boy, you better treat her right, or I'm coming for you." Luke Hayes stood near the edge of the tent, a bourbon in hand, his grin warm, but tinged with nostalgia. He'd taken a job as a consultant for Keisha's new project, a solar grid for low-income communities in New Orleans funded by Baxter Energy's profits. He'd found his own path, but seeing Keisha so happy, so fierce, was enough. "Rich boy, you got lucky as hell," he said, raising his glass to Ryan. Ryan laughed, pulling Keisha close. "Don't I know it?" Keisha leaned into him, her heart full. She'd started a scholarship fund for black women in STEM, named after her mother, and Ryan had matched every dollar, becoming a vocal advocate for diversity in the industry. They were a team, not just in love, but in purpose. building a future that mattered. As the band struck up a new song, Keisha grabbed Ryan's hand, pulling him to the dance floor. "Don't embarrass me, Baxter," she teased, her eyes sparkling. "No promises," he said, spinning her with a grin. The turbine spun in the distance, a reminder of the storms they'd weathered, the fights they'd won. Keisha Morgan had come to Houston for a job, but she'd found so much more: a partner, a purpose, and a love that burned brighter than any lie. She was built for storms, and she'd never stop fighting. Epilogue. Keisha stood on the New Orleans solar grid, the panels gleaming under the Louisiana sun. Kids from the community ran past, laughing, their homes powered by her work. Ryan was beside her, his hand in hers, his eyes proud. "You did this," he said, his voice soft. "We did this," she corrected, squeezing his hand. "And we are just getting started." The end. Yo, that S. Keisha and Ryan. S. Wild Ride, y'all. If this drama lit your fire, smash that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Tell me your favorite moment. Keisha roasting Crane, Ryan S. redemption, or Lucas Bigheart, who is the real MVP? Let's keep these turbines spinning with more stories like this.